Any moment now, the Federal Reserve could announce its third straight interest rate cut, but it could be the last one we see for quite a while. Joining me now, business correspondent Alexis Christoforous and our Elizabeth Schulze, who is there at the Federal Reserve building. So, Alexis, big picture here. President Biden is about to hand off our economy to President-elect Trump. What are experts watching for as the country transitions to this new administration?
Well, most immediately, Kira, what we're watching for is a quarter-point cut from the Federal Reserve. I think anything other than that would be a big surprise for Wall Street and catch them off guard. Going forward, the big question is, what does the Fed do? Do they cut interest rates in 2025, and how many times and by how much? And all of that is predicated on the kind of economy we're going to have in 2025 under, President-elect Donald Trump. We know he has said on day one he wants to implement, 25% tariffs on our closest trading allies, Canada and Mexico. Canada has already said it may retaliate by shutting off imports of alcohol, American alcohol, into Canada. Costco's CFO came out and said if inflation rises because of these tariffs, we're going to have to, raise prices on consumers. So a lot of it depends on Trump's economy, those tax cuts he's promising, the tariffs he's promising, their impact on inflation. And if they start to fan inflation, we could see the Federal Reserve pull back on those anticipated interest rate cuts.
So, Elizabeth, we just got the Fed's decision. What can you tell us?
Federal Reserve cutting interest rates by a quarter point rate cut from the Fed as expected. That marks the third interest rate cut in a row from the Fed. The Fed now bringing down those rates, but notably it does now expect fewer rate cuts next year. The Fed's projections now looking toward closer to 2 interest rate cuts. The last time it gave those forecasts, Kira, it had thought it would do 4. So what that's saying is that there is a little bit more uncertainty in the economy about what the path for borrowing costs looks like. The Fed has a lot of factors to consider, including inflation staying higher than it had been, stalling a little bit in some of that progress in the Fed's fight against inflation. The Fed also looking at what the policies of the future administration under President Trump will look like and what that might mean for inflation. So now what this shows is that a little bit less borrowing costs coming down. When you think about what that means for consumers, Kira, it does mean that it could take a little bit longer for some of those household borrowing costs. Think of credit card rates or auto loan rates to come down for consumers to feel real meaningful relief when they're taking out those loans.
All right, Elizabeth, since you're working double duty, Alexis, stand by here for a second while we have Elizabeth. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear arguments now over this law that would ban TikTok if it's not sold to an American company. What do we know?
Yeah, Kira, well, this is another big headline in the world of business, right? We now expect the Supreme Court to hear those oral arguments January 10th when it comes to the TikTok ban. Remember, that ban set to take effect January 19th. So that does leave open the possibility in this timeline of some sort of decision from the High Court on the ban, but no guarantee that we would get a decision before that takes effect. Of course, TikTok's arguing that that ban is unconstitutional, that it limits free speech for its 170 million users. We've heard the government say that TikTok is a national security threat because of its Chinese ownership, and there was that bipartisan law that sought to ban TikTok because it wants it to be owned by an American company. But really, bottom line there on that, Kira, TikTok's fate at this point very much in the hands of the nation's highest court.
And if it is banned, Alexis, that means a lot of jobs lost, right?
That's right, because you have a lot of influencers who actually make a living off of TikTok. There's a lot at stake here, including a lot of advertising dollars. We know that President Trump, was a skeptic on things like crypto. He was a skeptic on things like TikTok. And he has a change of heart on both right now. So we'll have to see if he swoops in and saves the day and allows TikTok to live to see another day here in the U.S.
Okay, stand by. You guys working double duty, 2 stories for us. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Alexis. Thanks, Elizabeth.